Hi everyone, I'm Christa, shamanic practitioner as well as teacher of shamanic classes, and welcome to this beautiful conversation that we will be having here today with the wonderful Madame Pamita. So welcome, Madame Pamita. Our topic today that we're having this beautiful conversation on is we are talking about beautiful matanka dolls, which are wonderful talismanic dolls in the Slavic tradition and Ukrainian tradition. And as you can all see, we are both part of the Ukrainian diaspora, so we want to share this beautiful information with you on these very special dolls. So for those of you that do not know Madame Pamita, she is an amazing woman. She is part of the Ukrainian diaspora. She is a witch, teacher, author, candle maker, spellcaster, and tarot reader. She has many beautiful talents and many beautiful skills. She also has a popular YouTube channel for teaching witchcraft, magic. She also hosts the Magic and the Law of Attraction and Baba Yaga's Magic podcasts. And she is the author of a very special book titled Baba Yaga's Book of Witchcraft. She has also authored the Book of Candle Magic. There's her beautiful Baba Yaga book. Can you just show it one more time? Beautiful. And also her candle magic book, the Book of Candle Magic. And also she has authored another book, Madame Pamita's Magical Tarot. She's also the proprietress of an online spiritual apothecary called the Parlor of Wonders, where she offers many beautiful objects for sale there, magical objects, as well as beautiful services in the magical realm. And she lives in Santa Monica, California. And you can find her on her website, all of her beautiful offerings, products, as well as magical services and the like at parlorofwonders.com. So welcome, Madame Pamita.
Thank you so much, Krista. This is such a thrill for me and so exciting for me because Ukrainian magic and Ukrainian folk magic and traditions is my super passion as it is yours. And so when we get together and we get to talk about it, it's a delight. Even doing it in a way that we were recording it even better. But anytime I get to talk about Ukrainian magic, I'm so happy. So thank you.
Yes, this is such a very special topic. And as both of us are in this realm with Ukrainian magic as well as Ukrainian folk healing, we are on a mission to preserve this culture and really bring back the old ways of working and sharing that with the world. So this is a very special conversation that we're having about matanka dolls. So let's dive in. So Madame Pamita, please tell us, what is a matanka doll?
So a matanka doll is a talismanic doll. I have some that I'm going to share, and I don't know if you want me to show them now or talk about them now, or we'll talk about them later.
Yes,
But
let's show them now as you describe about them. Yeah.
okay, so this is a motanka that I purchased from a Ukrainian craftswoman. It's her company is called Echo Motanka, and she's on Etsy. Beautiful, and it was beautiful because when I got this motanka doll, it wasn't just she didn't see it as like a souvenir. She really had a little handout that came with it that described the magic of the motanka and what it's used for. And this is a motanka doll that I have crafted and made myself. And I also have on my site motanka doll kits so that people can make their own motanka. So motanka doll is basically a talismanic doll that's used to protect and to heal. So in my story, my mother used to tell the story of when she was a little girl and she got very ill. She was probably 3 years old or 4 years old. And she described that my grandmother, my babusia, made her a doll and gave it to her. And then after she wasn't ill anymore, the doll was gone. And so I heard this story and I thought, well, maybe she was just my grandmother was trying to entertain the little girl while she was sick in bed. But as I learned more about Ukrainian folk magic, a light bulb went off. When I discovered motanki and what they're used for, they're actually used for healing. And oftentimes when you would have a sick person, especially a child, you would give them the motanka as an ancestor protector. So one of the important features of the motanka is that it's a house for the ancestors. It is not your ancestor, and it is not meant to be tied to your ancestors, but is a temporary home for them to inhabit, to bless your family, to protect your family, and to heal your family. So this is a beautiful, I would call it like a hotel that that your ancestors can stay in. And when you have one in your house, they're used in so many ways. You can use it for protection. The one that my grandmother made for my mom is a special kind of service that you would do with the motanka, which is to give it to the child, and then it absorbs the illness from the child. And then the motanka was burned afterwards to destroy the illness, to destroy the disease. So this was that you're not destroying your ancestors when you're doing that. You're destroying this home that they used to be able to remove the disease from the child. But we find motankas used for lots of different purposes. They're, in your home to protect you. You can keep it on your ancestor altar to be a house for your ancestors, to invite your ancestors into your home, and so on. So that's in a nutshell what a motanka
Yeah.
is, which isn't, it's a big nutshell.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Thank you for that introduction. So let's talk about a little bit more about this. Let's break it down. So let's start with the first aspect that you mentioned, which was protection. So when we have the Matanka doll in the house, what kind of protection can it offer for the home, for the family? Protection from what?
Well, we would look at it as protection from negativity, curses, evil eye, and things of that nature. So when we ally with spirits, I'm a spiritualist. I work very closely with my ancestors and with spirits of nature and so on. When we ally with the spirit realm, they can protect us in a way that maybe a physical person couldn't protect us. So let's say, for example, we might invite a bodyguard, hire a bodyguard into our home, but a bodyguard can only protect you against physical problems, and the spirits can protect you against spirit problems. So a motanka could be there to protect negative people from coming into your home. It could be used to protect from negative energies coming into your home. So it is there as your ancestors watching over you, like guardian angels watching over you, to protect you from any of the spiritual negativity that can come in. And certainly, I would say, some physical as well. We talk about the spirits keeping negative people out of your home, driving negative people away, or making you invisible to negative energies and negative people. So that's the way that I see that the motanka works as a protection tool. So
Yes, that's so beautiful. And the way that I was taught too for that protection is protecting both from the energetic and the physical. So protecting from ill wishing towards you, evil eye towards you, anything that could sour your success of your marriage or your partnership or your family or your finances or success of your work. So protecting from any ill wishing there or any harm to befall. And also the physical, like you mentioned, the physical of making your house invisible to intruders. So if someone were to break in and steal something, they wouldn't even see your house. There would be a certain type of invisibility that could happen, like a shield of invisibility, so your house is not even seen. Or also to protect from disasters. Like one thing I was taught was like protecting from storms. So if there was a flood or a windstorm that could damage the home or the property, or some type of even human-made disaster as well, to offer protection there. So I think the amount of protection that these dolls can offer is huge in that way, and also protecting from any negative spirits that could enter the home. I mean, that was really big built into the old culture there, that it was believed too negative spirits could ruin finances, ruin relationships, create illness. So protection from all sorts of things. So it's amazing. So please tell us, Madame Pamita, what are some typical materials that the doll is made from? And is it more favorable to scrounge around your house to find materials to use, or can you go out and buy materials specifically to make the doll? Is there a difference there? And what would be good materials to use?
Well, traditionally, hemp fabric was used, or linen fabric. Those are the two fabrics most commonly found in Ukraine. Cotton, not so much. That's more of a 20th century thing. But in prior years, this is a practice that goes back thousands of years. And as we look back, hemp was very available, linen was available. And so those were most often the fabrics used. So if you want to be super traditional, you want to use that. I would say, in our day-to-day life now, you would want to use a natural fabric. You wouldn't want to use polyester or nylon or something artificial. You would want to use something that has life force in it and has a more direct connection to the land. And I think think about it. If you might look cute in your polyester shirt, but you're going to be uncomfortable. We want to make a comfortable home for our ancestors. They have such an investment in us succeeding. And that's really what this house, the Motanka being a house for them, really has that ability. And so we want them to be comfortable. So getting some linen or hemp is a very beautiful thing to do. And this one, for example, I got some hemp fabric from Ukraine that was hand woven. It's antique and hand woven and was from probably the 1930s or 40s. And it was very special because when weaving happens, we can go into we're going to go on a tangent here, but weaving is a magical act. And weavers, women that would weave, would sing their intentions, their incantations, their spells, and their prayers into their weaving. And so when even the source of the material that we use for the doll can have magic in it, So I would say get natural fabrics, but the most traditional ones are hemp and linen for making them. And then you might get some scraps or something for the clothing. You don't have to necessarily go out and buy special things. You might have little scraps of cloth. This was a piece of cotton cloth and a little handkerchief that I used for her skirt and her apron. So, you can use it for that. But for the body, I recommend using the linen or hemp fabric. And if you can get hand woven fabric, all the better.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I think that was a really important point that you made about, I'm going to say, living fabric as opposed to dead fabric. These dolls are infused with beautiful energies, life force energies. So using those types of cloth that have that life force energy, the living energy, as opposed to the dead, it just adds that beautiful element of more healing energy in the creation of the doll. So that is so beautiful. And please describe to us a little bit about the types of elements that these dolls need to have in the making of the doll. What type of elements go into it? What should go into it? What should not go into it? And if you can please describe to us about that, that would be wonderful.
Well, the dolls are really special. And I think there's a very unique Ukrainian aspect to them. That I don't know if I've seen exactly these dolls in even other Slavic countries or and anywhere in the world. One of the main features of them is that they are rolled and not sewn. So we see puppets showing up in magic in a lot of different cultures, around the world, really. But the unique feature of the motanka is that it is rolled and not sewn. Motati is the word for rolling something, and motanka comes from the word motati, to roll. So when you create the doll in the beginning, you need to have your pieces of fabric ready to go, cut out, and then you might put something inside the fabric before you roll it to infuse it with some more energy. It could be herbs, it could be coins, it could be seeds, grains for fertility. You can put many things, but you don't want to put too much. Just a little tiny sprinkling of these things, and then you roll the body. So the body then is a long tube, a long cylinder of this linen or hemp fabric rolled up, and then it's folded in half. So then once you do that and you fold it in half, the fold where the fold is becomes the head. And then we tie off a neck, and then we have a little rolled arm. So the little rolled arms, exactly, that are tied off here. So nothing is sewn. You can sew or embroider the clothing, but the doll itself never is pierced by a needle. So your beautiful motanka there has all that gorgeous embroidery on her apron, which is just delicious to me. I just can't get enough of it. So beautiful. But you can embroider or sew the clothing, but the doll itself is never sewn and no needle is pierced. So how do we close it off? How do we do that? Well, we tie it off, and you can see in the detail here, it's tied and tucked, not even in mine, not even a knot used to even tie it off. It's just tucked under. Now, motanki, I, in my understanding and research and so on, were kept for a long time, but they weren't something that you would necessarily preserve for generations and generations. So much of Ukrainian magic is consumable magic, right? So you might, as I mentioned before, burn the motanka because it carried a disease, it took the disease away and you wanted to get rid of it. That could be one way. Or, just it naturally sort of, comes apart or something like that, and you can make a new one. One of the other features when you're making it is an option, actually. You either have no face with just blank material, or you have this crest, which is a cross on the face. And that is made with just wrapping with different colors of, in my case, embroidery floss, and I think yours too. We just wrap them around, up and down, across and across, and keep building up from the center and build this little crest. The crest itself, the cross on the face, is a protection symbol. It's an ancient protection symbol, pre-Christian, old protection symbol. So it's a way of, bringing protection energy in. I think it protects the doll and you, because there's the belief that if you have a doll with a face on it, it can inhabit and trap a spirit, actually. And if the doll has eyes, the eyes can steal your soul. So we would never make a doll in the Motanka tradition. We would never make a doll with eyes and a face. We would never do that. It's either blank or it has this woven crest across the face that that is a symbol of protection. So that's another feature of the dolls that make them very, very unique.
Yeah, and that type of protection of blank face or the cross shape on the face is so important, because even in many cultures, Ukrainian culture, but even many cultures around the world, there's that belief that a spirit could attach to the doll or possess the doll, which is so undesirable as we can imagine. So this offers that beautiful protection. And like you say, you don't want to lose some of your soul essence into the doll as well. It's like taking a piece of you, or the doll to be used against you in a negative magical sort of way. So this offers protection there.
Mhm.
And coming back to what you mentioned about when the doll is made, being rolled, no scissors, no needles, no knives. When I was making this doll, and even other ones, it was to my understanding, the way that I was taught, that if you use the needles or the knives or the scissors, that you are cutting or piercing your destiny, and essentially like tearing it apart in some way. So the destiny of your life, set in a good way for good outcomes, for good success. If you were to use the scissors, the needle, the knife, that you would be cutting that, creating some destruction for yourself, or limiting yourself in some
Mhm.
way, or creating a challenge that you might not want to have. So it was very important to do that. Now, also, could you please tell us a little bit about what it was like for you making your own doll? And when the dolls are being made, there's an aspect to it of like speaking in blessings, or speaking in wishes for things that you would like to create, or speaking your intentions, whether it's out loud or even in your mind. So could you please tell us a little bit about your process of making your doll, and what went into that?
Well, one of the important things, and this shows up like all across Ukrainian magic, is that when you're making a talisman, whether it's a pesanki, a decorated egg, or motanka, doing some vishivanki, you're doing embroidery, whatever you're doing that is meant for protection or meant for magic, you need to be in a positive state of mind, because whatever state of mind you're in, you are putting that into the talisman. So you come to, whenever you sit down, you want to be calm, you want to be peaceful, you want to be happy. If you're not happy that day, that's okay. Then pick another day to make your motanka. This is not the day to make your motanka. So you have to come to it with a peaceful, positive state of mind. That's the first thing. Second thing, when you're making a motanka, you have to do it all in one sitting. It's not something that you make one time and then pick up later on, and this and that. Now, it might be, for example, like in your case with the embroidery, that embroidery was very complicated. So you would do the embroidery first, then probably put the motanka together when you put the motanka together. So the embroidery part of the clothing doesn't count in that, obviously. But when you're putting the doll itself together, you want to do it in one sitting, one continuous sitting. They don't take that long to make, they might take an hour at the most, but that way you have this continuity. You could whisper your words. There's a tradition, the Baba Sheptuhi. The Baba Sheptuhi are the Babi Sheptuhi would be the grandmother whisperers. So this is a tradition with elder women in the community who are healers, and their healing practice comes from whispering incantations and words and prayers when they're doing their healing. So you could whisper into this, and that's very traditionally Slavic way of working, particularly Western Ukraine, Poland, and so on, of whispering your intention into the doll as you're working on it. So you might whisper prayers, intentions. Now, my technique is I just say what's on my heart. You might go and find official prayers that have been done for centuries and do those prayers. I will, say either way can be great, but you can put your intention into it as you're working on it. You could even, because it's a part of that, as you mentioned, like the no cutting, no piercing, none of this. This is a very like a prohibition that exists all across weaving, spinning, all of the cloth arts, that we would do that kind of work, not necessarily on embroidery, because you're going to pierce when you do embroidery, but everything else you would, not want to break your thread, because if you broke your thread spinning or broke your thread while you're weaving, that is not good luck. So you wanted to make sure that you were really doing a good job and paying attention and not making any mistakes. So in doing that, you want to pay attention to the work you're doing, focus on it. Don't make any, don't have any issues with like doing that kind of, going not paying attention and then doing something that would harm the doll or harm your own destiny, as you mentioned before. So yeah.
Yes, and I think too, like making the doll and infusing the blessings, the intentions, the wishes, and speaking that over and over as you put the doll together, it becomes like a meditation. And it keeps your mind pure and focused on the task, because when you're making it, you don't want to be, saying your intentions and blessings, and then all of a sudden you hear something outside that's a loud noise and you're like, oh, what was that? And you get a little irritated because that's going to go into the doll. So when you speak them over and over, then you're infusing that good energy in there. It keeps your mind pure, so you're not thinking negative thoughts, okay? Or also it amplifies the healing power of your intentions and wishes. Now, also, could you give us some examples of intentions and wishes, like either for prosperity or protection of the home, or for illness, and what an intention could look like, or what a wish could look like, just to give us an example of different types of wishes?
Well, you can do, there's different motanki for different situations. There's there's so many. In my original version of the book, in my book now, in the book of Baba Yaga's Book of Witchcraft now, there's a whole chapter on motanki, and it talks about making them, teaches you how to make them, the importance of them, and how these are companions and ancestor, houses for the ancestor spirits. And in the book, and even in the story, it's housing the mother, the deceased mother of the little girl who's going on the adventure. So you can use it, of course, for, this is like the traditional, the one you and I have is the traditional one. And we could infuse that for protection, blessings, love, health, happiness in the home, peace in the home. Those could all be great things. Think about your ancestors. These are your ancestors. They are invested in your success, right? You are carrying on the family line. You are their children, their grandchildren, their great, great, great grandchildren. Of course, they adore you, and they want you to be safe, and they want you to be happy, and they want you to be successful. So all of those things can be infused, but you can even make special dolls. Like there's one that I love so much. This one we talked about before, Christa, that I love so much, is that you can make a doll that has not 2 arms, but has 6 arms or 8 arms or 10 arms. These 10-arm dolls are so beautiful and they look so magical. That 10-armed doll is meant to help you be efficient in your working. And so she is there to help you, to make sure you accomplish all your tasks, that you get the house clean, that you get everything done in the home that you need to get done, and that she is there to help you. So it's like when you have that doll with the 10 arms, it's not that the little doll is going around and helping, but things will move smoother. You won't have those setbacks or those problems that you have to solve that prevent you from moving forward. So we can create dolls. There's like a day and night doll. There's a pair of dolls that you can create that are called day and night that protect the home over the day and over the night. That's another beautiful way. And they're usually attached together. They could be attached together by the hands or attached together by a string. And they usually have like dark and light for day and night. There's dolls that we create that are very simple that we could use for blessing babies. So a beautiful matanka, and it actually has a dual purpose. They might stick a piece of bread inside the head of the doll and just make a very simple one where they're just closing off the head, and then the rest of the body is like, like a ghost, like you make a ghost for Halloween or something like that. You put a cloth and you tie off the head, you put some stuffing up in there, and then you tie off the neck, and then it's loose from the neck down, right? So these dolls that they would put the bread in the head, they would give to the little baby, they would bless it, they would have it be the ancestor, but the baby could chew on the bread, chew on that and have it be like a little pacifier, but it's also a motanka. So it's not meant to be, they're not meant to be, of course, disrespected or anything like that. But this is a way that the baby could be protected and very intimately involved with the motanka. And then the motanka would be used up by the baby. You might wash the cloth or put a new, I don't know what the details of that would be. But, these are different ways that motanki were used around the house. Another way that motanki were used traditionally is that when a woman was pregnant, a motanka was made to represent the ancestors blessing the baby. And they would put the motanka in the baby's crib before the baby was born to protect that baby. And then the motanka was left with the baby to protect the baby as it was in that very fragile state of being a newborn, and to really protect it from any harm or something terrible happening to the little baby. So lots and
Yeah.
lots of ways that they can be used.
How beautiful is that? Especially to have the doll as, the woman is pregnant to ensure good pregnancy, good birth of the baby. Baby is now in this world and the doll with the baby. So it's amazing in that way. Now, is it ideal to have one doll for the house, or could you have different dolls that you make? Like, let's say one for prosperity, one for protection of the home, one for health and wellness of the family.
Well, I think you can do it either way. I think you could make one all-purpose motanka and have it in your home and have, herbs and talismans and things inside that do all of those things. But they're so cute and fun and beautiful and magical. Why not have more than one?
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
I think of them, when we make them, we have an intention. And so the intention we have right now, this motanka here was the one that helped me through the time of COVID, when COVID was happening, and I really had high anxiety. And so I used this motanka that I purchased from Eco Motanka. I used her as my companion to soothe me, and I kept her close. I really hugged her. I held her. I really, she was there to comfort me. And this one I made for protection of the home in general. So they have different purposes. And as you go through life, you're going to have different life circumstances. Maybe one time you have a little baby and you need to protect the baby. You're going to make one for the baby for that special intention. Maybe someone in your home is sick. You want to make one for health and healing and someone coming back from this illness. You can do it for that. So I think as you're, you can have one, that's fine. But, as we move through life, our desires, our needs, our wishes change over time. So we will, make motanki for different various, situations. So, yeah.
Yes, I think that's an important point to mention. Like, our lives evolve, right? And to have this as a culture where you're always creating a new doll for what your needs are and what your purposes are for your next evolution in your life. So for instance, maybe if someone was entering into a new job, they got a job promotion or a career change, you can have a matanka doll that will help you with that, protecting your career, maybe prosperity and all of that. So it's amazing, to work with the dolls in this way over time. As you create, as you change and grow, so too do the dolls that you have around around you as well.
Mhm.
So I would like to share a little healing story of something here about working with my doll. And then I would love for you to share a story, Madame Pamita, about working with your doll and the effect that it has. So one day I had a anxiety attack, as can happen, and I was affected in the way that my heart was palpitating, like da 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 da, palpitating, doing flip flops. My heart rate was high. And also that gave me some gut trouble as well, stomach ache, gut trouble. And it was in the evening and I thought, oh my gosh, where did this anxiety come from? And I thought, okay, I got to do something about it. So I took the doll and the first thing I did was lay her on my heart, and just with the intention, thank you for, releasing this anxiety for me, and thank you for settling my heart energy down. And I just laid on the couch with her on my heart and I was just breathing. And within like a minute, that was resolved. It's like everything calmed down. And then I took her and I laid her on my abdominal area there for the gut issues that I was having. I was having a lot of stomach ache, cramping, and things like that. I laid her there and asked her for healing for that area. And I just laid down maybe for 5 minutes, and then like that, it was gone. Now, these things for me, when like, I don't have anxiety attacks like that often, but for me, it tends to linger. Okay. So like the heart thing will linger, digestion goes out of balance, that could linger, that could even spill over into the next day. And this within like 5 minutes of just laying on the couch, just holding her, just asking for that healing, boom, it was gone. Sometimes when I go out of the house, if I go somewhere where I feel like I need a little extra protection, maybe I'm going to be around people who might be a little bit grumpy or hostile or whatever, I actually pack her up with me. I wrap her in a cloth. I have a cloth here that I wrap her up in, and I have a special bag for her. It's just for her. And she sometimes comes with me in those situations to offer me some, protection in that way. And I think too, especially for people who are empaths, who are sensitive to absorbing the emotional energies and stress states from other people, carrying a little matanka doll with you where you go can also help you with that, so that you're not taking that on. Because if you do absorb people's emotions and stress states, you'll become affected by it. You will start maybe having ill effect in your health or emotional state. Even traveling with like a little mini matanka doll can be really nice as you travel, even if you travel to another city, another country, to offer protection on your travels, and so that your travels go smoothly. So yeah, please share us some stories, or a story at least, about what it's like for you working with your own matanka doll.
Well, this is interesting because I'm at home right now, and these are the two that I work with very closely at home. But I also have another Motanka in my office at work who's there protecting. So I have the prosperity Motanka at my work, and she's watching over the business, making it sure everything goes smoothly. She's there really protecting and making that thrive. And then I have these two at home, and this one was boy, she did the heavy lifting during COVID. I would take her to bed with me and I would hold her when I was having really bad anxiety and worry and fear before there was vaccinations, and we were worried, like if we go outside, maybe we're going to get it, that kind of anxiety. She was there with me. I was feeling like every little symptom. Oh, I made a cough. Oh my gosh, do I do I have COVID? And so when that was all happening and I was so anxious, I would just sleep with her. I would talk with her. I would, ask my ancestors to protect me. I would, really lean so heavily on her. So she's very special and dear to my heart because she was there really in this time of crisis. But one of the things that just came to mind when you were talking about traveling with the Motanka, it's like the Motanka is something, once you learn how to make one, you can make one on the fly. I mean, you can make one if you have a piece of cloth and a piece of thread, you can make a Motanka wherever you are. So if you're away from home and you need a situation and you really need to have some help and assistance from your ancestors, you can make one on the spot and really have that. So that's one of the beautiful things, is that you don't need super special equipment or things or this or that or the other, just a simple piece of cloth and a piece of thread and you are good to go. You might, that's it. That's all you need. You can make a very simple one. You don't need to make a fancy one. I mean, she's super fancy. She's a little bit fancy, but you can make a very simple one with just those very, very minimal tools and really infuse it with your energy and intention and really feel its power and work with it. So, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is such a beautiful point is you can make them on the fly, on the go as you need it if you didn't bring one from home and make that no matter where you are. It's so easy. And also, yeah, I mean, they can be simple, right? As you mentioned, or fancy. And even simple ones are powerful. I think sometimes there's this idea, in our kind of modern culture, it's like if it's fancy, it's more powerful, but that's not necessarily the case. Like, you're the one you made, the one I made is like moderately fancy. But even making a simple one, just simple,
Yeah,
it can be powerful because it's the healing intention that you put into that. Right. So
exactly.
simple, fancy, both work really well, the
Yeah.
intention behind it. So, where are some typical places in the house where you would place your Matanka doll? Are there specific areas that you can put her, or other areas that work better than other areas in the house? Please tell us a little bit about that.
Well, in that traditional Ukrainian home, the peach, which is the wood stove, was a very important place in the home. The oldest place that we would see the ancestors showing up. The fire in the peach. So the peach is a big wood stove that would, in a typical chata, would take up almost a quarter of that living space. Was so important. The stove was life. I mean, it really meant the difference between life and death, especially in winters. You could cook your food there, you could wash your clothes on there, but you could all and dry your clothes, but it was heating the home during the winter that was so essential. And the peach was just the most important place. The ancients saw the fire as the home of the ancestors, and that living fire, the energy of the fire, is like a spirit. We see, well, it is a spirit, but we see that visible form of spirit, aliveness, energy and life. And so this was considered to be the home of the ancestors. In the olden times, in more traditional times, when someone would walk into the home, a guest would walk into the home, they would remove their hat, they would bow to the peach, and then bow to the pokut, which is the altar, which is a later development, but still very, very important, an Eastern altar in the home on the Eastern wall or southeast wall, southeast corner sometimes, or eastern corner. But this was the place where an icona, an icon, was put in newer times, in Christian times. But the pokut and that holy corner and that ancestor altar existed in pre-Christian times. So we have these two very important places in the traditional Ukrainian home: the peach and the pokut. So if you have a fireplace, you are in luck, because this is a beautiful place that you can connect to your ancestors. And having a motanka on the mantelpiece, which is where sometimes she lives there, sometimes they change places. So I have one on the fireplace mantle. So she's there representing the ancestors on my ancestor altar, which is on the mantle. Then I have another ancestor altar in my home, which is at the pokut. And that would be another place that you could put your motanka, which also is a place that is a home for the ancestor spirits. So these are two important places. If you don't have a fireplace, don't worry. You can create an altar, an ancestor altar. If you want to do it in the super traditional way, you can put it in an eastern corner of your home. But if you don't have that, you can place it in a place that I would call like a community place in your home. So maybe, I mean, I take the motanki into my bedroom like you do. I take them in when it's necessary or when I feel like I want some comfort, but they don't live in my bedroom. They live in their own special place in the more communal part of the home. In my case, it's like right next to the kitchen, which is the place you would hang out with your ancestors. Where would you invite your ancestors? The living room, the kitchen. These are the home places where we would invite our beloved ancestors to come in. And this is a great place to put that. So if you can find a little spot, a little table, a shelf, a bookshelf, a windowsill, even if you live in a small place, that you set aside and as a dedicated ancestor altar, and you can put your motanka there. So
Ah, beautiful. Thank you for explaining that to us. It's great. And, having that special spot of reverence, I think also builds up healing power in your space as well. And then your doll can move around on an as needed basis. So if you want to have the doll beside your bed as you sleep at night to protect you, and especially if you have nightmares, if you're prone to nightmares or weird, strange dreams, and you want some extra protection in the sleep state, you can put your doll there. You get up in the morning, you can put it in your special spot there, your ancestor altar, or move it around. I sometimes bring my doll also when I work. If I'm going to be doing a lot of work and I need some extra energy there to channel into the work, I'll put her beside the computer as I'm sitting at the computer and doing work. And then, yeah, she goes to my bedroom at night and sleeps on my bedside table. And actually, doing that, actually, I have quite a bit of insomnia. Sometimes it takes me a while to fall asleep. But when I started putting her there, I thought, as an experiment, let's just see what happens. So I put her on the bedside table, and lo and behold, I started to relax a lot quicker laying in bed. My mind would usually be overactive, the mind quieting down and falling asleep a lot sooner instead of taking me like an hour. So lots of beautiful, healing there for her. So when you work with the Motanka doll, experiment, see where is a good place in your home, move it around, see what difference that makes as well. All right. And also, please tell us a little bit more about, is it when you start working with the doll, you mentioned a little bit about this, but when you start working with the doll and over time, we talked about, we can make new dolls as we grow and evolve personally, or as our families grow and evolve personally. But what happens if the doll spontaneously starts coming apart? So for instance, the threads start unraveling or it's starting to fall apart. Is it better to fix the doll, or is it better to then let that doll rest, make a brand new one? What would be your suggestion there?
Well, I'm curious as to what you have to say about this too, but I would look at a doll that's falling apart is that she's ready to retire. She may be ready. She's done her work. She's absorbed all that negativity, and maybe it's time to retire her. So retiring a doll would be the most traditional way, would be to burn the doll. And because it's not, remember that it's not your ancestor, it's the house of your ancestor. So just like, a house is getting old and shabby and, not so nice, you would want to fix it up, or you could fix it up. I mean, I could see, a rationale for fixing it, but I think of looking at these magical tools when they start to show us that they're kind of done, as I would perceive it. It's time to retire them and make a new one. This is a temporary house for your ancestors. It is not your ancestor. This is not your ancestor. It's a home for them. So you can make a new home. And I would suggest this. You make the new one now, and then you retire the old one. You can burn it. You could certainly ritually dispose of it. I would take it apart. I wouldn't leave it intact. I would take it all apart. If it's falling apart, take it all apart. And then if you can't burn it, then dispose of it. You could bury it. You could leave it at a crossroads maybe, or leave it out in nature, give it back to nature. Another important reason we want to use natural fabrics is that they will disintegrate over time if you leave them in nature. That won't happen with a polyester fabric. It'll stay there forever and make littering be gross. But a piece of cotton will eventually, or a piece of hemp or a piece of linen will eventually disintegrate. And so it will go back into the earth and be, nourishment for the plants and so on, become fertilizer, and that's okay. So, but I wouldn't do that I wouldn't put the whole doll out in that way. I would take it apart in pieces. You might do something like here's an example. I mean, there's lots and lots of ways I suppose you could work with it, but you could take it apart and then take those pieces of the cloth, and you might take them to a crossroads, for example, which is a place where two paths cross, right? Two paths cross. And you could tie it to a tree and leave it there as an offering. Thank the spirits, thank the ancestors for helping you. They've got their new home now, and now you're giving this back and you're leaving it there for the spirits to absorb, for nature to absorb. So that could be one way to respectfully dispose of it. I do not recommend throwing it in the trash or just going like whatever, or giving it away or doing something like that. This is a magical item. Taking it apart has that essence of your dismantling its purpose. But even the pieces of fabric and thread, I think, hold power, and we want to do something respectful with it. So tying it to a tree, leaving it in the ground in a place that doesn't look like litter. You could bury it, you could burn it, and those types of things. So I'm curious as to what you say about that, because I want to know.
I think something that you touched upon, I think an important point is to have overlap with dolls. So when one doll is falling apart before you dispose of it in some sacred way is to already make another one so that you have overlap. You don't want to have a gap where you release one doll and you have like this open gap. You want to have another doll in place to offer the protection or to help you manifest your wishes in that way. So I think it's important to have overlap. And this is why it's good to have more than one doll, on the go at any given time.
Yeah.
And yes, burning it that way, that was, as you mentioned, very traditional. And, as you're going to release the doll and retire the doll in that sacred way to give thanks, speaking some words from thanks or feeling that gratitude in your heart, like, thank you for your protection. Thank you for your healing. Thank you for doing this for me. And now I release you back to the energy of the earth, or I release you back to, Mama Earth, or however you want to say it. And dismantling it can be a good idea as well. If it's falling apart anyway, you could just unravel it. And as you're unraveling it, unraveling the threads, unraveling the rolls of fabric, again, just giving thanks. Thanks for your healing. Thanks for your protection. Thanks for everything that you've provided for me and my family, and then just letting it go. And once it's all unraveled in that way, taken apart, then disposing of it in the sacred way is key. I think if a little bit is coming apart, like one part is unraveling, I think it's okay just to fix that. Okay. But, once the whole thing starts to unravel. And an interesting phenomena. Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about that. An interesting phenomena is, if you're working with the doll and it's taken on illness from you spontaneously. So, sometimes we might have emotional illness that comes up, or mental illness, or physical illness, whatever the case may be. Sometimes these dolls, it was said that they'll do spontaneous healing work for you instead of you asking for it, in the examples that we talked about. And when that happens, the doll absorbs that illness, whatever the type of illness, and then it can start coming apart like spontaneously. So if you start to see the doll like really unraveling, then maybe it took on something on your behalf, or maybe someone sent you out a negative psychic arrow, as we say. They sent you some ill wish, but it was a big one, like a one that had a lot of emotive force behind it, and this doll blocked it, okay, and then took it and absorbed it, and then now it's unraveling because it took that energy. So then that would be the time to retire the doll and to release the doll back to the earth or to the fire, etc., and then have a new one on the go. Yeah.
Well, the fire is a really important aspect. If not everyone has a fire. I mean, we're talking about a time when everyone had a fire, but the fire is the home of the ancestors, so it really is the most appropriate place to put it. But not everyone has a fireplace now, so, or a chimenea or a fire pit or a place that they can burn it. So we don't want you to go out and buy a hibachi just to do this. I mean, you could, I guess, but that would be really bringing it back home to the ancestors, giving it back to the ancestors. And it's a beautiful way of doing that. But certainly, Mati Semlia, the Mother Earth energy of taking that back, can be like the second best way to work in that way. So either way is fine. But I 100% agree. If you see a little bit falling apart, it might have been a small thing and you can repair it. But you and I know you can also sort of check in with the Motanka and sort of see, is the feeling that you get she's done, or is the feeling you get, oh, I just need a little help? You know what I mean? Is it just, I need a little, hey, tie this little knot again, or something like that. So, I think if you work with them a lot and you're really attuned, you can sort of sense where she's going or what she wants. But, if you have just a little thing, it's certainly fine to be able to fix it and see how, if it keeps falling apart though, then, right.
Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting to pay attention to them and see what starts to happen over time, and interesting phenomena can happen like that. So yeah, it's amazing once you start to witness that, and just thinking about what's going on in your life and what's happening with the doll, or even with a family member of yours, what could be happening for them, and then what's happening for the doll. So it's interesting to see it in that way, for sure, with those intuitive eyes, looking at it from that perspective.
Yeah, we have to also remember that so much of Ukrainian magic really was meant to be on the go, used up. Pesanki, which people nowadays keep pesanki for lifetimes and generations, but traditionally they were only really kept for a year. You would put it under your beehive, you would put it in your barn, you would feed it to your animals, or, it wasn't meant, Pasunki weren't meant to be these precious treasures that you would do. They were meant to be used. They were being used and used up. It was no big deal because you knew next spring you were going to make new Pasunki, right? You knew that you could sit down in a minute and make a new home for your ancestors. So that sort of a bit of detachment with it is okay. It doesn't have to be like, oh, so shocking. Yeah, make a new one and, let the old one go. It's time for a new home for your ancestors. They'll love it. It's like a new house. Hey, look how nice everything is here.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it teaches us the art of letting go, because it's easy, I think, for some of us when we make the doll, or if we're making any sacred object, even the pasanki, that it's like so much work went into it.
Yeah.
We become attached to it. But this really teaches you that life is ever changing. Things are changing, and to let go of attachment when the sacred object has fulfilled its purpose in your life. Time to let it go, and then time to welcome change and welcome in a new sacred object
So
in that way.
beautiful.
So it's a beautiful process of creation, of death and rebirth cycles, and recreation and procreation. And that's another aspect about matanka dolls too, is that they do represent fertility in all of its forms. So that can include physical fertility, birthing of babies, but also creating fertility in your life for prosperity, for good work, for good opportunities, for good friendships, supportive people. And just as we release one of the dolls, once we retire her, then we welcome in new energy. We welcome in new prosperity, or new people into our life, or new protection, or whatever the case may be. So it's always this cycle of creation, cycle of death and rebirth, of letting go and recreating and welcoming in the new. And even welcoming in the new and improved, because change does not always mean like disastrous change. Change can be wonderful, beautiful change of things, changing for your highest good in ways that you couldn't even imagine, to bring more beautiful blessings into your life. So it's important, I think, that we embrace that energy as well, and don't be afraid to let go, because new energy is coming in that is more in service to you.
Yes, perfect. I love that.
Excellent. Any final words about these very special, beautiful dolls, Madame Pamita? Anything else you would like to share?
Well, I think that is something that, it can look intimidating to make. Where do I begin? How do I make one of these step by step? What do I do? Um, there is a little information out there in English. There's not a ton of information. It's mostly in Ukrainian because it's Ukrainian tradition. And so you can find videos on YouTube and other places. Um,
Yes, but
yeah,
this is also where you come in, Madame Pamita, because in your book of Baba Yaga's beautiful magical practices there, everyone, there is a beautiful chapter in there of how to make your own doll. And Madame
yes.
Pamita and Baba Yaga walk you through that process of how to create it, how to make it, and all of that good stuff.
It's even illustrated to show you the step by step, which is how
Beautiful.
to do it, and then step-by-step directions, and then how to use your motanka in your magical practice. I also have a class coming up in the first Sunday in May, that I'm teaching how to make motanki. So
Beautiful.
if somebody wants to learn in a hands-on live Zoom setting, it's a Zoom class. I have that coming up, and they can find out about that by going to witchcraftworkshops.com. That shows all my workshops. I'm having every first Sunday of the month for the rest of the year, a Slavic magic practice, and we're going to learn hands on how to do it. So the one for the first Sunday in May is going to be about making motanki. I have motanki kits available at my shop, so they can get those and work with those, and that will have those have full directions if you want to just do it on your own. The book tells you how, so if you want, you can get your own scraps of material. I have beautiful hemp fabric that people can work with, and linen fabric that people can work with to make their motanki, with all the pieces that they need, so they don't have to source it. If you're someone who doesn't sew, if you're a sewer, you have fabric everywhere, so you're probably not worried about it. But if you're not a sewer, what do you get fabric? There's no fabric stores anymore. You have to order everything online. So we have this kit that's ready to go. The pieces are cut out in the proper shapes. They're all ready for you. And then you can go step by step and make a motanka. So that's one of the resources in English that people can do it. People have workshops. I know in Canada, you guys are so lucky. There's lots of motanka workshops. There's lots of museums have motanki workshops as well. And so there's lots of sources for making these beautiful dolls, whether you go to my book, you take my class, you go to your local Ukrainian museum and you find out if they're offering a class and so on. But they're really beautiful, beautiful dolls. And people, it's interesting because I think the last thing I'd like to say is that the beautiful thing about it is that there are some people that look at them as just like, oh, it's an old tradition from the past. And they don't look at it in the spiritual way. They just look at it as a craft, or they look at it as like, this is our special traditional craft. But I would say half or more of the people that are teaching Motanki or working with Motanki really see them as these beautiful homes of the ancestors and take them very seriously. They're playful and they're fun for sure, but you want to, see the depth and dimension of that spiritual practice that is creating these beautiful and unique dolls that are very special. So I think that's so lovely to see that it's not just, oh, back in the old days, great grandma made this for her superstition, but people are really looking at them now and saying, yes, they're powerful, they're beautiful, they're a home of our ancestors, and we do take it seriously as this spiritual practice. So whether you're if you're Greek Catholic or you're, pagan or you're whatever practice, everybody makes a motanka and you can infuse it with that energy. It's not exclusively pagan, it's not exclusively Christian, it's everybody. And they are all seen as this beautiful, magical talisman that can bless your home, bless your life, protect your family, so many things. So I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. And to touch upon that too, that old Ukrainian culture was a very animistic culture, just like many cultures around the world, which means that it was a living culture working with the living energy of things, the living energy of the doll, the life force energy of the doll, or also with the pisanki eggs. And when we work in this way, no matter what culture you are from, if you want to work with a matanka doll, it, as an experiment, you can make one and say, okay, what beautiful healing effect or what good protection effect is this going to have on me, my work, my career, my family, and see what beautiful thing opens up in your life. Sometimes we go through life in a robotic type of way. We get up, we go to work, we take care of things in the home, we take care of kids. But this helps to connect you to the sacredness of life so that life flows better, life, turns out better. You have more better outcomes of things. And if you choose to make a doll, work with the doll, or buy a doll that someone else has made, and you start to form a beautiful relationship to it, see what wonderful things show up in your life as a result. It can only enhance things in a beautiful way.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in the kits as well, Madame Pamita has kits, her website parlorofwonders.com, so you can go there and order a kit from her, or you can scrounge around your house and see what fabrics you have, old clothing, you can use that for matanka dolls, and you can also pick up her book and follow the instructions there or take the class with her. So thank you so much to all of you for watching this very special video, and thank you to Madame Pamita for sharing your beautiful knowledge and wisdom. So if you would like to check out her services and her products, go to her website, parlorofwonders.com. If you're also interested in going deeper into shamanism, I do offer live and interactive online shamanic classes. So you can check out my class schedule on my website, shamanicspirit.ca, or if you would like to do a one-on-one shamanic healing session with me, I do those online on Zoom. You can book a session on my website, shamanicspirit.ca. So thank you so much to all of you for watching.
Can I say one thing before you?
Yes.
I want to say, I have taken classes and I'm taking classes in to be a shamanic practitioner with Christa. I have had shamanic sessions with Christa and they are amazing. I really encourage everyone, if you are interested the least in shamanic practice, to go to the introduction to shamanic. What's your introduction called?
Gateway to Shamanic Journeying class, 2-day class.
2-day class. It's so beautiful. And you can test it out and see if you like it. Or if you want some healing done, Christa does amazing, beautiful work. So helpful for me. I have cannot say enough or sing your praises highly enough. So I just wanted to give a little testimonial before you said
Thank you.
goodbye.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And also, Madame Pamita and I met because, our Ukrainian ancestors brought us together. And I just want to say some special words because Madame Pamita is doing amazing work to preserve the culture as well.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for that.
You're so welcome. It's so important. It's so important right now. Oh my gosh, it's so important. And so we celebrate being Ukrainian and we celebrate our beautiful practices. They're so unique and so wonderful and so magical. And so Motanka is just the tip of the iceberg, isn't it?
That's right, exactly. There's more to learn and more to explore. So Motanka is a good place to start. And as you get into that, chances are you're going to go deeper and learn all kinds of beautiful things. So thank you so much to everyone for joining us and watching this beautiful video. Lots of love and light and blessings to all of you. And may you enjoy this beautiful day. So thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Madame Pamita. Bye. Bye.